What up, gamers? I'm Jason, and today on Dice and Dragons, we are coming back at you with another episode of Kickstarter Excess or Value. We are going to be discussing two games in this episode, so this will be a two-part episode. We'll be discussing Wild Assent, which will be the first part of the video, and then we'll be discussing Valor and Villainy, Lludwik's Labyrinth, and that will be the second part of the video. So we're going to go all into Wild Assent in the first video. The second part, we're going to break down everything about Lludwik's Labyrinth, and we will also be discussing which games that we backed in the second part of the video. So make sure that you check that out. You'll also be able to find timestamps in this video and in the next one in case you're not interested in one of the games. You can just see what our responses are and our final thoughts. And today I'm lucky enough to have some fantastic guests on the show again. We've got Ryan from the Bridge City Boardgamers, and we've got Rob and Anna Marie, the Meeple Dungeon. So thanks again for joining me, everyone. And I'll let you guys do the full introduction, and make sure to take a look down below in the video description. You'll find links to their channels, their podcasts, and all the great stuff that they're doing out on the internet.
Yes, thanks, Jason, for having us on again. I got my pledge finger is just an itching today. So I'm Ryan from Card Board Conjecture Podcast and Bridge City Boardgamers here in Saskatoon. And you can check us out on Twitter and Instagram. It's at BC Boardgamers. And we've got two podcasts that come out every week. We got What You've Been Playing Wednesdays. So every Wednesday it drops. The Meeple Dungeon and Jason and Julie from Dice and Dragons are part of that wonderful Canadian cast. And then on Saturdays, our Cardboard Conjecture podcast drops, and we discuss a whole schwackload of different things, board gaming and tabletop gaming related. And you can find that on all the podcatchers out there.
Yes, and for those of you wondering where Julie is, she lets me do most of the purchases on Kickstarter, unless it's big with lots of pretty miniatures and it's painted. Then she looks at it and says, buy it, don't tell me how much it costs. So that's why she doesn't get involved in these excess or value discussions. She doesn't want to know the price.
Fair.
And yeah, thanks for having us back, Jason. This is great. We just love being here. It's Rob and
Anna Marie
from the Meeple Dungeon. And we do Twitter is our biggest thing at the moment. We also have a YouTube channel with the same name. And we appear on Ryan's weekly podcast, the What You've Been Playing Wednesdays podcast every week. And you can catch us all over the place on the internet, but Twitter and YouTube and the podcast. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. And for those of you that are interested in learning a little bit more about our host, there's going to be a card popping up. So that will take you to the Kickstarter Excess or Value playlist. You can hear me and Ryan discussing in our first episode where we talked about Marvel United, some of our Kickstarter do's and don'ts, our woes, and some of our surprise hits. And then we had the same discussion with Rob and Anna Marie in the second video. So feel free to check out both of those. And in our second video, we also talked about The Witcher Old World, something that my pledge finger is still sort of sitting over and waiting to see if I'm actually going to take the deep dive or not. So we're going to talk about Wild Assent Lavon Rising. Now, I'll give a little bit of background on the game and discuss just a bit about the game itself. I will be looking to change this up a little bit and maybe cut in some scenes and images from the pledge. So if you see that happen and you're used to our older videos, you know exactly what is going on. So just a bit of background, Lavon Rising is essentially Wild Assent 1.5. This is going to have an updated rule book, a completely new story-driven cooperative campaign that you're going to be making choices and going on a branching storyline. All of the components for Lavon Rising can be included in Wild Assent's core skirmish mode, which was a part of the original base game. Now, what this does in this version of the game, they're using new box art. There is a new manufacturing facility. So they are using PVC unicast, which is different than the original game, which was manufactured in Poland by Archon Studios, meaning that the old minis and the new minis are not compatible. So I'm currently still waiting for my game to arrive, and because of that, I'm not going to be taking the lead in this discussion. You guys got to see some images from Lavon Rising and just from the Wild Assent campaign itself, the original. And now I'm going to let my guest start leading this conversation because I was looking at the page. My pledge finger started itching because of some really nice things that I saw. But at the same point in time, I'm like, hey, where's my game? And at one point we were told that the games were loaded and on the way to Canada. And what that meant was they were going to be loaded onto a boat and shipped to Canada. So my game will arrive after the campaign. So that's just kind of where I'm at. So
that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
Face.
Yeah. So and that's also unfortunate they made this new campaign not compatible with those folks that backed that original like Jason here. Like companies, what are you doing? That's just
painful.
It's painful. I will give them a little bit of a break because they have changed manufacturers, so that can be fairly drastic. I know that another company that went through that was IDW with the swap from Shadows of the Past to the new version of the TMNT game, but they basically did a redesign and threw in a whole bunch more content to it as well. But there is definitely still some similarities, and they did copy a lot of stuff from that original game. But so there is a little bit of that, which I can understand. But the one thing I will say, though, is that with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the scale hasn't changed. So that's my biggest issue, is the scale of the minis changing. And that's where I agree with you, Ryan. I don't want to have different size minis, especially like new heroes. That just bugs me. Yeah, no.
Let's just pray that there's not a third Kickstarter game found thing, and then they totally revamp it again. Let's just fingers crossed there. No, Wild Assent here. This thing, when you put it on our radar here, Jason, like my like drool started like foaming at the corners of my mouth here because there's so many, did anybody actually count how many miniatures you actually get if you go like all in?
It's
dozens and dozens of
100, and so I might be mistaken, and I'm not going to take credit for something that I haven't pulled up myself, but I was taking a look at the Board Game Co's video on Lavon Rising, should you back it, and I believe that it's about 156 miniatures all in or so when you get this one.
Yeah, the core box alone has 50. So
yeah, so it's like 50, 50, and 50 because there's 3 core big boxes, and then there's some other small boxes with different miniatures. So about 156 if I got it wrong. So I'd say between 150 to 200 easily.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And the renders look absolutely top notch.
If you do take a look, there are some unboxing videos out there of Stormsunder miniatures, which are going to be what the Wild Assent minis look like as they have started getting some of the production started for Stormsunder. So you can definitely take a look at those. And I've seen the original Wild Assent miniatures, and like they look really good on anyone that's doing like how to plays or showing off the components. They're beautiful.
Yeah, so we have no reason to think that these wouldn't be just as nice, right? So that's a nice thing, knowing off the bat that the miniatures will look relatively what they're advertising. So that's nice.
Yeah, and so like they got a whole bunch of different little pledge levels. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different pledge levels. Yeah. Kind of trying to fit the mold. Like you can just do Wild Assent Core, which I'll just give it in Canadian dollars. They have I like Game Found here because you can toggle between the Canadian, US, and British and whatnot, and euros, everything like that. So Wild Assent Core pledge, $147 Canadian, not completely unreasonable. I've paid tons more for probably something very similar type of experience. But that's just that I think Jason was talking about. That's just the original core pledge. That's what this updated version of the original campaign. That's what I understand that core pledge is.
Yes, but it does include some new content. So in the original pledge, it was you could get the expansion called Shadows of Silverstream. So with the core pledge, they have that, and then it includes a new expansion as well in the same box, if I'm not mistaken. So it has a little bit extra stuff that you wouldn't have in that original box.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Because then right below it there's Shadow Stream Pledge. It gives you core box, the Shadow Silverstream expansion, daily unlocks, wave 1 stretch goals. So that that's about double the price there. It's about $296. So we're getting closer to that $300 range.
Yeah.
Well, no. So then I was mistaken. It's just the core box and the stretch goals that you're getting in that core pledge. It doesn't include the Shadows of Silverstream.
Yeah. And then
Silverstream pledge on its own.
Yeah. Then you got your secondhand backers pledge, Shadow of Silverstream, and new pledge items. So if you have the core box and you, for some reason, if Jason's warned you, if you have the core box, you just want all the brand new stuff plus that original expansion, it's $309. So it's actually not that much more than the Shadow of Silverstream pledge. It's only like $10, it's like $10-15 more.
Yeah,
between
because
those two.
If you notice that the pledges, at least these new secondhand backers pledge, and I really got to give Lazy Squire Games credit because these were not part of the original campaign, but with the flood of people that started selling their Wild Assent first editions because they just decided they were going to back the new content. They probably played it, had enough fun with it. They're like, I don't need to play it for another year. And they do say that they are looking to ship the first wave of content early. So they're going to try to get it out by, I believe they see December. So maybe that'll happen. I don't know. We'll talk about that a little bit further on, but it's a really cool thing that they did to help out those people.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this, this core pledge here, you get a lot of stuff.
Yeah. We were just looking at that. It looks super reasonable for.
Now, but this is just going to be just a skirmish. It's just going to be kind of like a skirmish, like game. Or does this also have like the things that has that Valor Rising?
So that's the catch. And I was watching just a couple videos and doing a deep dive on it. So the core game will be the cooperative hunt mode that you can play, where you're essentially fighting like some big boss monsters. You're also managing a settlement, and you're building up your settlement slowly, similar to Kingdom Death Monster. You also then have a campaign, which is really a one-and-done campaign that you can play of that hunt mode, and then you get the skirmish. So the branching storyline and all of that stuff is only in Lavon Rising. So if you do get just this core pledge, you're just getting Wild Assent and the new miniatures. At this point, we can see how many people have pledged it on GameFound, which is 700 people. I think you're better off just probably trying to find the game secondhand if that's the experience you're getting. Now, you will have more options for it to be compatible with new stuff in the future, but I don't know if it's necessarily worth the cost, in my opinion.
Yeah, I have to say the artwork, the reworked artwork is much more attractive to me. When I was looking at the BGG account, at the box that you're going to be getting, I was like, oh, it's okay. But then this new art is really attractive.
Just the bright colors on a black background makes everything kind of pop.
It makes me it makes me want to have this version rather than the other version.
I agree with you. I'm just saying cost-wise, if someone's trying to offload their pledge right now for
sure
undervalue, if you can get it for, let's say, $80 instead of, the $120 that it's listed at, like, at that point. But I do agree with you. I love the new artwork.
Yeah.
The made the right choice there. Itchy.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned that it's a one and done, the quote unquote one and done campaign. It's just a fairly linear campaign, probably X amount of scenarios. And then it's not going to change play after play.
No, to really get the variable play out of it is going to be with the skirmish mode, which I've heard some mixed things about it. Like, I know a lot of people love the game. A lot of people love the way that it works. and there's been a lot of hype that's been out there for it. I was watching, plug another video here, One Stop Co-op Shots 5 and 5, and I thought they did a really good thing on it, and they praised the like the miniatures, a lot of the simplicity, but everything else kind of came in like mixed. And when you see people discussing the rule book and some of the issues with the rules, I think that's part of the reason why they're really doing this 1.5.
Okay. So that automatically makes me, I'm going to skip the core pledge. I'm going to start going up into the next tier here because I want more stuff. I don't want to just be a one and done because, you know, I still have like Sleeping Gods to finish, and I got Tainted Grail behind the microphone here, and I still got other stuff like that. But I want, like, this is me. This is the FOMO that we talked about way back in the very original episode. I don't want to miss out on all of it. I need to have it all.
So I think it's a good point to ask a question. Will any of us back a core pledge of this game?
That answered a lot of questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say my struggle with backing it is part of it is knowing, like, because we didn't do it on the first round, kind of like you had done, and you haven't gotten it yet. And that was quite a while ago. And now it's like new stuff's already coming out before that's gotten out. And it's not a new game. It's just, like you said, add-ons and like more variability, I think, in the play.
And improved rules. But
one thing we saw too, the rules, it just, yeah.
So what I wanted to say, though, is I think all of us can agree that if we do decide to back this game, the core level is just gone. Like, we're not doing the core pledge.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. It would be. But mind you, when you look at that price
though,
on that
that's
all in,
I would be like core, like looking at it, it'd be core pledge or all in. Because what else? What's the point of the in betweens? Like it would be like I'm gonna go for the 120 or the 370, and that's a big jump. So
yeah.
I don't
American dollars. Though,
yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think,
so if we're gonna go all in, we've got the Lavon Rising pledge. Gets you all of the things that are not in the add-ons. There's add-ons here that aren't part of that Lavon Rising pledge. That's 450 Canadian Monopoly monies.
Yes. Yeah. And before we talk about that, I just want to point out one thing is that there is the Shadow of Silverstream pledge that you'll get, which you can do, which is essentially the original Wild Assent all-in pledge with some extra content. So if you are just looking for that core game with like everything new from the core game and a few things, that's out there, $239, and maybe it's something that you want to consider.
Yeah,
I think we should talk about the all-in. I think that's where it's at.
I would definitely lean that way. If there wasn't the first printing of this, I would certainly consider the core pledge. Just because I feel like you get a whack of stuff in there, and I don't know if you need everything. I'm not sure, but since that original printing is out there and you will be able to get it secondhand, I think you're right about that. That I would probably try to search that out and snag a copy of it that way.
That's very valid, Rob, too, because I've started to do this more and more, where I'm starting to allocate the amount of money that I'm paying for a game, and cross-referencing that with how many times am I going to play this? And I'm going to try to calculate the dollars per play type thing. And so the campaign, did you say, Jason, did you know how many chapters or scenarios are in that core campaign?
It's not listed because they're trying something different, and this could work very well, or it could blow up in their faces. And if it works well, kudos to them, because I think they're going to have something that's going to be really awesome. But the whole idea of this campaign is it's the same campaign, but you're going to want to play through it multiple times because you're going to have different decisions. So you might have to betray someone one time, and stabbing that person in the back will leave you on a different track. And there's supposed to be lots of different branches, and not just the kind of thing where you're going to end up, like linear, or like you go 1, 2, 3. The idea is you can take all these little routes to potentially get to either a same ending you've got to before, or a completely different route to an entirely different ending. Typically when I've seen games that do that, and I've seen it more in like video game mechanics and things like that, you probably have like 4 or 5 like core paths that you're really on, and then everything else just kind of branches into those endings. But there could be more, or like if there are a lot more, there are probably very slight variations on some of the endpoints. But that is pure speculation. I've got no idea.
Okay. So I think I would have felt a lot better about this is if this new Lavon Rising was a standalone expansion,
Which
not
is
an
what I thought it
expansion.
was.
Yeah, I thought it was a standalone, but after you read through it, it is an expansion to Wild Assent, the core box and everything. So I like everything that they were advertising about that Lavon Rising piece, the branching storyline, the new campaign. It's got a little. That sounds like it should have been a standalone experience by itself. You wouldn't need anything else from the core box. I see what they're doing here. I see what they're doing here. They're targeting the people like me and Rob. They're
Absolutely.
Like, yeah. So like, I missed out. I missed out on that first one. And if I want to play this experience, well, I got to get the original. Well, if I'm going to get the original, I may as well get the other stuff that's in between.
Might as well get everything.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating, and this is actually one of the reasons why I wanted to do this as Wild Assent and Valor and Villainy, because Valor and Villainy is taking the exact opposite way of doing things. So it's these campaigns that are running at the same time, they're ending at almost at the same time, and it's 2 contrasting methodologies, which I think is just really fascinating.
Yeah. Another thing with Wild Assent here, just from a theme and type of game that it is, I think for me, it's getting a little lost in the world of all these big epic fantasy dragon slayings type games that have been coming out lately, which I've backed all of them to this point. So getting this one, it's like, God, it looks good, right? But I just backed 3 of them like a month ago. So I think that's my biggest hurdle right now. If you know, if like, I forget what they were even, but if the last few games hadn't been out over the last few months, I'd be really, really close to clicking the pledge on this right now.
You know, you have a problem when.
Yeah, you know, right?
Oh, I was going to say, let's insert a joke here about
It was, let me think. It was the Monster Hunter and
all right.
the Witcher, right? And so I got both those coming. It's like, do I need this one too? I don't know, right? Like, I want it badly. I think it looks amazing.
Monster Hunter, and what was the other one, Rob? Sorry.
It was Monster Hunter and The Witcher.
Yes.
Yeah, and they're similar style type thing, right? And I think that's my biggest hurdle right now is like, do I need this game? I want it, but like I don't know. For $450, is that what it is, Canadian, Ryan?
Yep, roughly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they stayed consistent. So like they have the core pledge about $150 Canadian, and then if you want like the in between one, that's like an extra 150-ish, and then if you want the next one, if you want all 3 of them, it's like another 150. So they actually they seem like they're evaluating them at equal levels.
Yeah,
like you're getting, and you do look like you're getting the same amount of stuff. Like 3 times.
Yes, I definitely don't think that it's. I mean, it does look like you're getting a good value for what you're paying for. Like you're getting a lot of stuff, and it seems like if you do get the big pledge, like there's a lot in there. It's not like it's.
I think you're getting more. I think you're getting more out of the new stuff with that campaign that you can play multiple times with multiple endings and branching storylines. You're getting more in that one than you are getting in the originals. I'm getting the feeling as I'm reading this.
No, I agree. And one of the things that you can't see, but I have access to, and I want to make sure to mention this just because we're talking about value and everything. Now, one of the things that Lazy Squire Games has done for returning backers like myself, because our game is not compatible, is we do have a cheaper to purchase returning backers pledge.
That's nice.
So that is really cool. So for example, to get all of the original content for me, so upgraded, is only $240 US. And that's everything.
Wow.
Right. that's pretty reasonable. I mean,
Yeah.
that seems pretty great for that you have that option.
No, it's a fantastic thing, but the fact of the matter is I still have a game that I probably paid like close to $250 and $300 for. That sure I can probably sell it for like $150 and gain some value and get it back, but I still then have to sell this pledge. Now the other issue that's going on right now, and I probably would have hit that pledge button if this game had arrived before it had launched. I'd be able to take my sealed game and just sell it to someone and been like, hey, I got my money back or most of my money back. I would have been pledging Wild Assent Lavon Rising, been like, you guys did a great thing. I'm not even going to bother playing it. I'll sell it sealed, then I'll get this new pledge. Now they are extending that option all throughout the campaign. And as far as I know, returning backers will be able to get like a lot of the unlocks and stuff like for free, even if you miss it and you backed it late because of we didn't get the game. So there is Lazy Squire Games is doing some nice stuff for us. It's just fairly frustrating when you see things like, hey, Canada, US games are shipping. And then it realizes like, oh no, wait, only the US went out. So Canada just kind of got the whole shaft. And it's still on a boat from Poland, apparently.
When was that campaign?
Oh, geez, the original. I'll take a look right now. But it's easily, I think, 2018 or 2019. So
we're coming in
October 2018. So we're almost at 3 years.
Yeah.
We're about 3 months away from 3 years.
Ooh.
A long time.
Yeah. So I'll talk about one of my issues, and it's also something that you do not have with GameFound, and I think this is also a new part of the platform, is that GameFound is insisting that creators offer refund minus their fees up until like production or the campaign is over. So if you do pledge, you can get a refund, and as part of and I think that's a really cool thing. That is if it's not part of the GameFound platform and I'm just making a mistake and Lazy Squire Games is offering it, then good on them, because it's something that I would have loved to have in the original, because I did not realize the game was being manufactured with Archon Studios. I knew of all the issues with Archon. I just canceled something being made by Archon because it's still at issue. So that was in 2017, by the way, and to give you an idea, they're still shipping stuff out for that campaign. So I'm really happy that I got myself out of that one and got a refund. So when I found out that Archon was producing Wild Assent, I was like, what did I do? Why did I back this campaign? The game looked good. I was like, this is not going to go smoothly. There's going to be a bunch of problems. And lo and behold, there was a bunch of problems. And there's also some design work. This was also the game that taught me to read the planning process, where they said another 6 to 9 months development time. And these days, when I see like 6 to 9 months development time, I'm just like, yeah, no, I'm not backing it. I'll wait. I'll get it secondhand. I'll find it something else. So
that's always kind of bugged me, when publishers come to the table to GameFound or Kickstarter with a not complete game. I can never really figure that out as to why. I understand that some campaigns, they want feedback to make the game better or worse or whatever people wanted. But I don't know. It just seems like a strange way of doing things to me. It just, I don't know. When you can't even advertise the game properly, if it's like, well, we still have 6 to 8 months of development left. Like, I don't know. Just bring me the game complete, then let me judge whether I want to back it.
I think it's because they're trying to get their company started. And if they take this idea and, especially if they have an artist or they paid someone, they may have invested X amount of their own money getting this going. So taking it to Kickstarter gets them out of their day job, potentially, depending on how well it goes. Or if they're, doing a day job that's maybe not as the most important day job, they can reduce their hours if they want to and spend more hours developing the game so that they can take this dream and turn it into their full-time job. I think that's where it comes in, because a lot of these mini heavy games, if you hire an artist, you invest 10, 15K of your own money, you can say, as you can see with Lavon Rising, raise almost $1 million on Kickstarter or GameFound.
Yes. It just always bugs me that they don't have it sitting there and this is what it is and this is exactly how it's going to work and exactly how it's going to look. it just, I don't know.
I agree with you.
Look more, but how it plays, I feel like that part should be.
Mm-hmm. When they're still saying like we're still developing the story or whatever, right? It just seems weird. Like you should just have that, you know, at least the basics of it done. I don't know. Just it's always bugged me.
At least with
bugging
this
me
one.
more and more. Like I've had too many issues with games that haven't been fully developed as of late, and I've really looked for that element nowadays. Wild Assent taught me, True Dragon Legends taught me, quite a few games just taught me that like it's not fully baked, maybe I don't want to back it.
Yeah. Just, I don't know. Like it's not, I just think of it of any other type of product, right? Like if they're trying to sell me a car and it's like, well, we got most of it figured out, but it's like, okay, well, I don't know if I want to buy your car, right? Like, I don't know. It's weird.
We haven't done the safety tests yet.
Yeah. But we're going to get there.
For the starter, you know, the rule book's not finished, which is essentially the starter. You can't even play.
Yeah. I don't know. Just, I get what you're saying though, too. I understand wanting to get
Dive
moving,
in
right? And get all the wheels turning, but it's from a consumer standpoint, it can be strange.
So do you have anything else you want to add, Ryan? Because there's an interesting segue, and I was thinking about this. I saw it in the Board Game Co's video, and I wanted to bring it up here with you guys as well.
Yeah, no. The last thing that I wanted to say is because we're always talking about value, and then now we talk about the excess stuff. Is there anything like if we go all in on this baby? How much stuff is that? That's a lot of campaigns.
That's a lot of boxes.
7 boxes.
The 7 boxes of miniatures that are going to get stacked up in a nice big old pile right about, right about here. Probably going to be about that high and stuff like that. Am I going to play all that?
Mm-hmm.
That's a question.
Oh my,
sure.
That is a question.
So the interesting thing is, I think, and just from the discussion and, the way we all like to play games, I think we're going to play Lavon Rising. I personally think the skirmish game is going to die on my shelf. It won't get played. I've got Imperial Assault. I love the fact that there's a skirmish game. It's a Star Wars skirmish game. I just love the idea of it. I've never played it. I've had it for 5 years. There's no way that even though the miniatures are nicer, that is going to get people the people that I game with to play a skirmish game on the table. If anything, they'd be like, we really want to play skirmish. I'll be like, let's take out Imperial Assaults. And someone's going to be like, I'm Chewie, I'm Luke, I'm Han Solo against Darth Vader and the Emperor. Like, it's just not going to happen.
I fully agree with you. It's the skirmish is the least enticing part of this campaign for me. It's just if it's there, okay.
Yeah.
I may play it sometime. I might not, just like you. It might just sit on my shelf. But you kind of have to get it if you want the other stuff, right?
Exactly, because it's in the core box. So I think that mode will just non-factor. And as Ryan pointed out, I'm going to just play Lavon Rising. I don't think I'm going to touch the original 10 campaign story, or if I do, it'll be so far in the future because we're all campaign game junkies. There's Chronicles of Junagor, who is actually doing a joint thing with Wild Assent. It's coming back to Kickstarter. That looks awesome. I've got literally Tainted Grail. If I duck, there's Etherfields. I mean, I've got Sine Tempore, the whole thing with like a giant, insane branching storyline. There's Nova Aetus coming. I could literally probably sit here for like a year and just play campaign games if I wanted to.
Yeah. It's frustrating
absolutely.
that, like Ryan pointed out earlier, that this wasn't a standalone, or if they didn't have a pledge with just the core box and Lavon, that's it. Right, that would be nice for $150. You can get the core box and the Lavon, and away you go. But that's not an option.
I think what would have been interesting is they should have just done a smaller Lavon Rising box, like its own thing, different version of Wild Assent, and this left the original game its own thing, as you say as well. That way, if you're a returning backer, you could, if the art doesn't match, it doesn't matter. You're not necessarily combining the two. I do think you probably get more options in Lavon Rising that way, but it might have been better to have something a little bit more scaled down, tight, instead of the big excess of the big minis game. I wonder if that actually would have been a lot more successful as this tight, like 150 pledge campaign.
Yeah. I would have. I'm pretty sure I would have backed it.
So
yeah, I would have backed a Lavon Rising only standalone expansion thing. Yeah, that would have been sold. That one sounds way more interesting. I'm at the point here where we already said, I'm not just going to buy just core pledge. I want all of the things, but I don't want to buy all of the things. I don't want to spend $450 for the one campaign that I am going to play. And I don't really care about the skirmish stuff. I could have a basement full of miniatures though. I could have that. I'm not even a painter. I don't even paint things. And I just want these things. Like, man, look how
They
many
look really nice.
like the D&D campaigns that we can create.
So let's take a look at Stormsunder right now. So this came up on Board Game Code's video and it popped into my head originally when I saw this. We've got Stormsunder out there, which is the heavy campaign game. It made more money than Wild Assent did. And I think for the same price, you get 330 miniatures.
How many?
230.
330
Okay,
miniatures.
so on Game Found here, if you're on the Wild Assent thing, you can go on the sidebar there. You can go all the way down to Lazy Squire Games. And then they have a late pledge here for Stormsunder, which I am just now clicking on. And now you can actually go back to the original campaign on Kickstarter. Oh my gosh. Look at this thing. Oh my goodness gracious. Look at you.
Oh, down here.
Okay. So now we're going. Okay, so now we're transitioning to Stormsunder, which you can late pledge right now.
So I just want to bring this in comparison. So we were talking about that 150 core box. Like if you look at this campaign, there you have it. Heirs of Ruin, core game, 100 miniatures, 1,100 cards in a 300-page campaign book is 150.
Wow, 150 US.
That's pretty sweet. That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And the one reason I wanted to bring that up is we all know what's going on in the world. A lot of us have issues in our day jobs and everything else, is that the shipping is a nightmare. Manufacturing costs have gone up. Paper's gone up. So don't kid yourself. Stormsunder isn't produced yet. I know they're working on the miniatures. I'm not sure where that with paper, but I don't know how much more this paper is now costing them than it was originally. If it's already produced and it's just not written in the updates, and that's great. So they probably figured everything out. But a lot of games that weren't literally in the press button manufacturing stage were in gigantic cost increases. Some things doubled or tripled or even quadrupled in price. And we've seen shipping gone up about 8 to 20 times. I mean, with Assassin's Creed, one of the other big campaign games I'm getting, their shipping costs ballooned from $35,000 to $107,000.
Wow. Jeez.
That's all shipping crisis. So when is this going to happen? Well, the estimated delivery for Stormsunder is in March 2022. So hopefully things will have calmed down. But I do still think there are some higher costs for Stormsunder. And I'm wondering if that didn't facilitate this whole, we need to get Wild Assent back to bring in a little bit more cash.
I've seen this old song and dance before.
To cover some excess costs. The only thing I would say is that if that is the case, it wouldn't surprise me that any excess costs for Stormsunder are already calculated into Wild Assent. Like, I don't think you're getting screwed necessarily. I think they're getting the capital that they need for both games out of it. There may be a good, maybe it's just like $50K they need. So part of their budget, there's an extra $50K in there that instead of having it be like, oh, we're going to raise this, but we spend all the money on this. I don't know. It's all pure speculation, but we're discussing about delivery and when things are supposed to happen. I mean, Stormsunder says March 2022, and Wild Assent is somehow supposed to be December 2021 on a second campaign. I don't know what would happen if I was a Stormsunder backer and they're getting Wild Assent before me. So there's some weird stuff going on that I don't know. It raises a few red flags for me that I'm not sure what to think.
I wonder if the December 21 is just the first wave of Wild Assent then.
It's supposed to be the first wave, but even then, it's not like the first wave of Stormsunder's left yet. So,
right.
And I get it that Wild Assent is a lot more ready to print. They just have the updated miniatures. They have to update the rulebook, but other than that, most of the files are just ready to go.
Yeah.
But it still is. It's odd to see this thing that launches in July shipping in December versus something that's been funded since
a while ago. Yeah, because it's this product, Stormsunder, this product ships Wave 1, May 2021.
Ooh.
May's come and gone, folks.
Okay, it is May. It was
But-
March 2022 was supposed to be the entire game. That's what it has for the pledge estimated delivery date.
But man, this one looks absolutely beautiful too.
It does. I wish you didn't point that out because now I'm looking at that.
Well, the thing is, the late pledge is still ongoing. So it's one of those things where if you see them announce late pledge is closing, we're starting production, you may want to jump in on Stormsunder, and it could be, a few months from now.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need to do it now. That late pledge has been open for almost a year. I almost late pledged. I had a buddy that was in there, but I actually decided to pull out due to some of the issues getting Wild Assent. And I know that we were talking, and originally he was going to be backing Lavon Rising. And then finally, when he saw the update that said Canadian games, people, I tapped my computer there. Found out the games went on the way and that we were not going to get them to maybe like 4 or 5 weeks, potentially even after this campaign closed. It was like, yeah, I'm done. I'm really pissed.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to be tough to make a decision.
Interesting.
All right,
Okay.
ladies and
The Stormsunder looks like it might be more up my alley than this Wild Assent business. So I have to keep in consideration all the things that Jason's just said, and I'm just gonna hopefully just. Do I need to sleep on it?
Well, here's one thing that I can tell you, Ryan, just so that you can, keep an eye on it. I will say one thing about Lazy Squire Games. They haven't been the best at communication, but they're very direct. When there's a problem, they do communicate it. When things are going into production, when they're closing down pledge managers, they've been very much forthcoming. So if this Stormsunder is up your alley, I would just suggest, pledging, getting into the pledge manager, get like a follow or something on the pledge manager so that you get the updates. And if they say, hey, we're about to start producing the game, we're closing the pledge manager, and they say that production timeline is this, and this to delivery, and then you want it and you just want maybe the core pledge or something, it might be the way to go. But I think that's my recommendation.
Yeah, this core pledge looks absolutely just bananas great.
It does.
Like at $150 and all this stuff you're going to get, and you're going to get a 300-hour campaign.
That's a 2-page campaign book. So yeah, it's going to be hundreds of hours.
Oh, that's just right up what I love about these of these things. Okay, Wild Assent, you're getting put on the back burner. I'm gonna dive into Stormsunder now.
It does look good, honestly.
You still got 3 or 4 days for Wild Assent, so you're good. You can put on the back burner for a little while. Figure out what you want.
I got 3 days to put it on the back burner.
It's funny because I'm out on Stormsunder, but there's part of me that I look at it and it's like, Jason, pledge, and I feel my finger going towards the computer, and then I have to stop myself. But
Go ghost pledge finger. I feel like it should be doing something right now. Why is it not doing it?
Yeah, I'm going to keep an eye on Stormsunder. I'm going to keep an eye on Wild Assent. I think the way things happen and when I actually get my core game is really going to help cement what I'm going to do. But looking at the campaign, and I think we can all agree, and we'll discuss this more in the second part of the video when we talk about Valor and Villainy. It's go all in on Wild Assent, or if you're looking for excess versus value, as this is what we talk about, I think we've seen that there is a fair bit of excess in Wild Assent. At least for us, what we want is Lavon Rising. We want that story. Well, maybe we don't do Wild Assent. We just get Stormsunder, which has exactly what we're looking for, except maybe a much longer campaign than what you can get with Wild Assent. I love the idea of those short campaigns. I mean, Journeys in Middle Earth, that's the game that Julie and I have probably played the most. We've gotten 80 plays of it because each campaign is about 15 missions. So we've played every campaign, and it's just been an absolute blast.
Yeah. Don't look at the all in on Stormsunder there, Rob.
I know. Jeez.
Don't look at that all in one.
$700. $630. Ugh.
Yeah, but that core box, that core box just looks juicy.
It does, man. Just that's 300-page campaign, hundreds of hours of gameplay, 134 miniatures for $150. Seems like a slam dunk.
So what you got to think about is though, so that giant pledge, that's, it's $440 US right now. It's over 300 miniatures and 300-page campaign books. And then if you look at Wild Assent, which is essentially, if you're not a returning backer like myself, it's $370. We're talking $80 for another 150 miniatures. That's 50 cents a mini.
Yeah, you're right.
And 50 cents a mini difference. Like, what are you going to do?
No kidding. Oh, man.
It's just really funny because watching the Board Game Go video, he goes, well, this Wild Assent, should you back it, turned into you should just go back Stormsunder because it's worth a lot of value. And it's one of those things when I saw these two things, I was like, I wonder if Stormsunder is really better. And hearing Alex talk about it really cemented in my mind. And I just thought it'd be fun to talk about with both of you. And I'm happy that you're seeing it as well. It's quite clear as day.
Yeah, we're just your guinea pigs here. Game,
yeah. We were the experiment, and we just confirmed his hypothesis.
That's right.
But it's true. If you put them side by side, the value of Stormsunder is a lot greater than of Wild Assent.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So excess or value, I think the verdict's in. Excess on Wild Assent. I think there's just a little bit more there than it needs to be. But we'll talk a little bit more about the two different methodologies of the campaigns in part 2 of this video. So I did hope that you enjoyed part 1. So popping up in front of us are going to be links to some of our previously released videos. You will definitely see the link to part 2, which will be out a day after this one, so you do not have long to wait. And the other link will take you to the Kickstarter Excess or Value playlist. Now, for those that want a little bit of behind the scenes, we are filming this all at once, but we wanted to break up this video into some more manageable segments. So also going to take a quick break. We're going to, grab a drink. And not grab our best friends because we're actually not going anywhere. But we'll be right back as we start working on the second half of this video, where we talk about Valor and Villainy, Lludwik's Labyrinth.